A very good Sunday afternoon, my people. Let's start our first part that we will do the deep breathing exercise. Make sure your legs shoulder width. Your hands up as if you are hugging a tree. Close your eyes. We'll breathe as deeply as we can from our nose out from our mouth. We'll do 10 times together. Now we're going to do our part 2, 10 energy movements. We'll do 5 on each movement. First movements, we're creating a boundary, an energy circle. Also strengthen our fascia system, our whole lymph system. Now we are strengthening our lungs and colon. In this season, with the weather change, it is really important. The next movement. That is for the whole gut. Again, that's the long tube. And a lot of people in the fall experience more of stomach coldness that cause them to have stomach pain or muscle spasm or intestinal spasm, and this one will help. Make sure one, we try to touch sky, and the other earth, the other hand. Now with this movement, we're balancing our 7 basic emotions: surrender to nature, also help with neck tightness, upper shoulder tightness, This movement help with balancing the heart system. Many of you now, when you turn, you can easily see your butt now, which is very good. People have heart palpitation, intestinal inflammation and stagnation, memory loss, or too much gas through this movement. Now, this movement will begin to really stretch out our tendon, open up our Ren meridian line, that's the nourish line, and dual meridian line, that's the governing line, our bladder line, that's our middle kidney line. Now, our kidneys. Next movement. If people have pelvic floor, a lot of you have pelvic floor inflammation, prostate inflammation, bladder inflammation, uterus inflammation, and ovarian cyst, or your tubes are too clouded. And this is a good movement for you. And if you have a heel pain, this will help too. Now, the forehead, your knee. And this really strengthens the whole body, fascia system, meridian lines, also reduce the end blood vessel inflammation. Now, the last one, make sure your forehead to the floor. Do it in a controlled way. That strengthen the whole 6 leg and 6 arm meridian lines. Also, you're squeezing the toxins out of the whole lymph system. Okay, so now we'll get a little water. Make sure that after the movements, we drink water. Warm water. Remember the 70 ounces warm water daily. Remember, the first thing we get up, what do? We have either 12 or 10 ounces of warm water. We slowly, not gubbing in, okay, slowly drink that first. And that will promote a gorgeous bowel movement. So today, that I thought we would share a little bit with you what we do with herbs. How do we develop a herbal formula? What are some basic ideas, principles, and what is our tradition? Again, herbal formula in traditional Chinese medicine is called fangji. It's a very complex system. It's really hard to explain, but I will give my best shot and see if we can pique your interest. So I thought first, since we're talking about herbs, let's look at how this word is written. As you can see, so this is herb. This is not just herb, but also this means when we look at this word, we know someone is trying to make a herbal formula, or this is a herbal formula. So there are different parts of this. This is on the top part. This is called cao. Cao is a plant, can be any plant. So in the middle, we can see here that is, this part is zhi, that means sun. This part is a person that is using the sun energy. And this is a symbol in traditional Chinese medicine. What does that look like in Western world? Doesn't it look like an 8, the number 8, right? So one of the number 8, that the symbol 8, this symbol, what does that represent? That represent indefinite. That means this formula can give you the possibility to create a balanced formula under the sun, right? Guided by a knowledgeable person using plant is indefinite. And then the last part is wood. So that is a tree. So, and then the other interesting part, but this is just the level 1 of the meaning. So now we know traditional Chinese medicine, what we focus on, we use a lot of plants. We grow them under the sun. We have a knowledgeable person. Think about indefinite possibilities. Also use different part of the trees. So now let's look at this part. What does that mean? This part means yue. Yue has 2 meanings. One meaning is yue means music. What is the core of music? Is the harmony. So now we know in traditional Chinese medicine, when we develop a formula, what is the core we're trying to reach? We're using plants, we're using trees, right? We're growing them, and we think the possibilities, a lot of great possibilities, and we put them together in harmony. When you reach harmony, then you should have literally music in your ears, joy, because le also means our cat, le, what that means a bundle of joy. So that is what yao, a formula, herbal formula, means. So now let's look at some basic ideas. So when we develop a formula, we're using different elements, right? We're using the element of wood, of metal, and earth, metal, water, wood, and fire. And then we create, so in this formula, we must create something that they promote each other, right? Let's say our wellness broth. Can we get a sample of the wellness broth? So let's say when we create that wellness broth, right? That was a formula that we use. That was a given formula. So because all of my formulas that they are centuries old, each generation we make adjustment, we make it more. We make it more for that generation to use. So let's say in this formula, we have 8 ingredients or 9 ingredients, right? So then what we try to create really is that we try to have a king formula, right? Maybe 2 ministers, right? And helpers, and also ambassadors. So then we create this formula, those ingredients are promoting each other. And then, but you see, the other side is they must control each other. Let's say if I promote your immune system, I must in a way create he is harmony. If I only promote, then your immune system may become overactive. If I only control it, then that your immune system may become underactive. So then with all those ingredients, how they dance together, how they play together, that they create, how they promote each other and how they control each other. So within these 8 groups, we may have many subgroups to play how they will roll to promote each other, how they will do to control each other, to reach the final stage, that is harmony. So each generation, right, we have a purpose, right? We say, what is it that my generation, that because these formulas, some of them that they were first being developed maybe 900 years ago, or 800 years ago, or 700 years ago. So they have the historical validity. So sometimes that each generation that we have books after books to read down how they develop such formula, that's first. And what is their rationale? And then the second part is try out this formula. Or have we tried in different regions and among different age group of people? and have what, 100,000, 200,000 users or 300,000 users. Some of the formula over the centuries has millions of users. So then each generation am I out?
Dr. Liu, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, so so can you?
We still can't see you. There you are. You're good. Thank you.
So each generations that you make such adjustment, if you know, I like history, right? I like to, it is part of my training. So the first 10 to 15 years of training, your job, that's why we started very young, right? We says, well, what did they do with you when you were 3.5? What they teach you how to chant. And part of the chanting is really chanting the formulas. You don't know their formulas. You just keep chanting, you're just following the chant and chanting those formulas. Then over the years that you just have thousands, tens of thousands of formulas that is in your head, because the chanting the formula, they also tell you what this formula for, right? You just chant that, you just memorize that. And then one day when they start teach you, then you have a memory library. You can easily go back to, and then that just come to you very naturally. So all those generations of formulas, that each generation they take on a mission, or every several generations. So my generation, what I have taken on, actually starting my grandfather's time, was because we've never seen, you see, throughout history, people have a variety of challenges, but since Industrial Revolution, that what we have slowly, gradually lost really is the connection we have with nature. Somehow we believe we're the masters of it. Somehow we believe we can manipulate nature as the way we wish without paying a price. Somehow we let human greed really get the better of us. So my grandfather began to write down those, in his view, that generation of healers, unthinkable actions. People actually hunt for fun, because that was not in our, it was not in our way of thinking. So a lot of people, you see, some of you, when you ask that, I think that, I don't know where you got that information, says, well, you know, why are you using animal bones? Why are you using things? Why are you? Well, this is why, because through generations, a part of professions of those ancient people, they were hunters and fishermen and farmers, and they have tradesmen, right? Different kind of, they do different trades. But this group, the hunters, were quite dominant. They hunt for food. So what do you do with the bones? What do you do with the parts that you can't eat them? Well, you put them in medicine, right? You put them in medicine. And you know, I have this 甲骨文. 甲骨文 is that was 5,000 or 6,000 years back, and you write those, were looking for a sign from the above, from the heaven, and write on the turtle's back. And later on, those are still being used as medicine. That's how 甲骨文, that's kind of the drawings were first being discovered. And I actually have a piece at home. So just to see that we use that because they are available. We do not hunt for them. They were sold to us because the hunters, after they sell meat and all this, they have bones. They want someone to use. So healers took on that, and then that become as a part of the formula development. So, but today's world has changed because we no longer hunt for food. We hunt for pleasure. I personally do not see how can anyone get pleasure out of it, but we hunt for population control. We hunt for variety, for pleasure, for it's a sport. So that has made me to make a decision. I have the past 35 years and carry on what my grandfather and my uncles and my aunts have started to eliminate, use the knowledge I gained in Taoist practice and in Buddhist practice, Taoist and Buddhist healing, to slowly but surely eliminate non-plant and trace-based ingredients out of the formula. So I have done the first round of about 175 formulas, and each formula that is only, let's say, this wellness broth, this formula, this was quite interesting because this is a formula from a monastery. So there were no non-plant-based ingredients in there, just mushrooms and fruits and roots and so on and so forth. So we have done 150 of this formula. After we transform this formula, we sent them throughout China and throughout Asia to different kind of large medical centers and clinics and to test out. So once we have that data to know it continue to be effective, then we use it in our clinic as well. So that's been said. So these are just give you some ideas. You see, for instance, in this wellness herbs, in this formula, what I am trying to do is I'm trying to reduce stagnation. So what kind of ingredients I will use, I will focus more to reduce stagnation. So there are several components we must think. Let's say, what does a root do? A root of a plant. What does that do? That goes deep, right? That has that energy, has that healing power to go deep. So in human body, what would that do? That go to clean up the end blood vessels, clean up things for you, right? That go deep to clean, right? So it of course is more complicated than that. We have to create all these, remember all these things, all these harmonies, But that is when we transform that formula, that is something that I have in my head, right? And then the other thing, if you think about it, why am I using more fruit in this formula? Ways, sasantra berries as a 5-flavored fruit that really naturally create a harmony, right? Because that has natural flavors, has 5 elements within one herb. That's very rare. But that's a fruit, right? That's a berry, it's a fruit of that plant. I have jujube dates. That also is a fruit. I have goji berries. That also is a fruit. Why? Because fruit has that ripe energy, right? But they have to eventually fall. So that moment will decrease your stagnation. At the same time, when it fell to earth, you will have new growth. When that happens, you will have the energy of rising up. See, now we're thinking, right? Now we're thinking why those group of formulas, why those group of ingredients are put together. So they are no longer just one ingredient. They become a part of the flow. So some of you asked me, oh, Dr. Lu, I don't know if I should, I look at your formula list and there one ingredient is I don't think I should have that ingredient. Well, that question, that means you don't understand how we develop a formula. You're thinking individually. We are thinking as a whole, as a flow. So you are thinking an individual cell. We are thinking that cell has become a part of the flow of the energy. So that, because if an individual cell escaped fate of the group, flowing with the group and become, that's called mutation, that will lead to cancer, right? A part of the concern or a part of the question I have with modern society is that if we promote too much so-called individualism, let the individuals jump out of the flow of the energy of the nature, then those individuals eventually will be cleaned out because they have inevitably, if it's too much, it goes too far, become cancerous, becomes the mutated, unrulable cells that will be cleaned out. So what is not going to be? It's the flow. That's how 10 trillion of cells in our body has flowed. Every single cell has a place. That's how nature is flowing. Flows as energy. Every single element has a place. That's how a formula is developed. It's based on hundreds of years of historical validity and usefulness and efficiency, and continue to be changed to transform into each generation. And that kind of formula will continue to flow. So that is when we put ourselves as a part of energy flow, as a part of history, as a part of energy flow. So now you know how much thought, efforts we have put into throughout centuries to develop a formula. And what we call a formula is those plants, trees, sun, and infinite possibility are given to us to create harmony and joy. That is we call herbs. Okay, so I will leave room for questions.
Dr. Lu, wow. I really love the idea of the essence of these formulas continuing on through generations, but yet the adaptability to each generation. That's just so, it's so amazing to think about. How is this tradition being preserved, and how does it continue with like generation after generation when modern society is changing in such a way?
Trained. We're trained. That's all. You have 小周天, you have those small pockets, and you have people who follow the tradition, who understand the formulas, and who continue to learn and grow. And I think that modern society, some places has lost it, but many places has really continue carry on the tradition. I don't think this is maybe is a little bit isolated kind of in the US because this medicine is still new. But I have no doubt that with 5,000 years of history and with will continue, this will continue. And just we're trained. That's why you started 3.5, right? You just for years. You put in that the memory in your head that you just go for it. And then you're being taught, because I do think a lot of schools, they don't really teach, because you have to have a family tradition. You have to have a tradition that they really teach you the trade, the secrets. Yeah. And otherwise you just, otherwise you put something together. I don't know what people are, there's no way for someone to learn a couple months and then says, oh, I'll put a formula together. You can't. I mean, you just like a blind cat try to catch that mouse, or you just shoot, randomly and hope to get some birds. I don't know. But it's not always possible. It's almost impossible for the first generation. You just learn and you are not trained well to develop a sound formula.
Really, Dr. Liu, through that lineage and through that training, I mean, you yourself become a part of that essence. That's just so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Dr. Liu, we are actually all out of time. Thank you so much. We would love to hear and learn more about these amazing, amazing herbs and this tradition, which is just, we're just scratching the surface. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. Always amazing.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Liu.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
Liu.
Liu.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. Thank you, Sarah.